way to build your team when you're a multi-hyphenate and you're trying to figure out like, all right, I have a team in this section, but what about the team in this section? Who do you bring over and cross? And who do you like say, all right, these are this section and these are these people and they're separate? So that's kind of my question.
I would say, so you have an agent. I would say so you're an actor, writer, director, right? I think that if you were ever to work with a manager, I think you would want to try to find a lit focused manager. Just because I do both, but it's kind of like not a normal thing where people really do both. I'm kind of a unicorn in that way, but I would say like your acting agent is going to be like, I'm not doing anything with that. So I would say like you would want to like, as you start to grow your literary business and your materials and things, like I would say look for a manager that could help on the lit side. And then you just have two people, and then maybe one day, like once acting takes off, if you go to a different agency, maybe there's an agent at that agency that then is saying, oh, and he's done these really great shorts, they've gone into these festivals, I see promise here, I see perspective, I see, the vision. Then an agent from that department would join your team at your new agency, right? So I would say for now, just keep working on the craft and building, and then you can, I would say, get a lit manager eventually.
Anyone else on the panel want to add anything? Are we good? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Next question. Oh,
He's been raising his hand right there with the braids.
Well, I will add one thing. Don't spread yourself too thin that you're a jack of all trades but a master of none. Right? The market is going to bear out what you're actually what you think you're good at, or what other people think you're good at is generally not the same. And I get that people, especially because COVID, that we have the tendency to kind of try to, try everything. But if you get really, really good at one thing, then everything else will open up, right? Like Beyonce, right? Or think about anybody that came into the film and TV business that wasn't their start. Like Will Smith, he got really, really good at rapping, then they opened it up for everything else. So if you feel like you're more stronger and feed your creativity, but if you need to find something that is really going to go for you, that people are going to notice, because once you're a brand, then everything can flow from that.
Who has the mic?
I do think.
Okay.
My name is Jonathan Curtis. I'm a writer-director from Los Angeles, grew up here. And I've been blessed to have agents and managers. And I've noticed that most of the success I've gotten in my career has been through own personal relationships. Like I've written in television, on like Grownish and shows like that. And I guess my question is, when do you know that you need representation or when to move on, specifically when the industry seems to be getting, where folks are getting more opportunities outside of just the agents or the Hollywood system, like getting money and brands and things of that nature. Like, what would your thoughts be to that?
So, are you in a situation where like you've gotten jobs and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've gotten jobs just through connections, through folks that I went to film school with, and then ultimately I've also directed films that, like I have a film in the festival that was funded by the Taco Bell Foundation. And so a lot of the movement in my career has really been like just from natural relationships I've had. And I'm just trying to figure out like what's the role for my agent or my manager if it doesn't feel like they're doing what I need them to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I asked, because, like if you were saying like, yeah, I booked an episode of television without my manager, it's like, yeah, they're not doing their job, right? I think there's two prongs to this and why I say that is because you're supposed to be doing things based on your relationships, like getting on sets, doing things, right? But if you're getting yourself staffed in a writer's room and they're not, then that's a problem. But I think if you're getting yourself in rooms and opportunities, but it's not necessarily like, because I look at it like my job is to get you a job in film and TV, right? As it relates to, right? If you're a writer director, right? I'm trying to get you a movie that has financing, or get you a movie that's set up at a studio, get you episodic directing, or get you in a writer's room. Now, if it's not any of those things and you're doing something else, I think it's great because you're only adding to what they're trying to cook up and do for you. It's a process. So just because it's like, oh, well, I'm getting opportunities on my own, but it's like, what kind of opportunity is it, right? Because sometimes you don't know, you don't always see the work your manager and agent are doing. I'm on the phone all day. I hate talking on the phone, but the amount of times I'm on the phone all day talking about my clients and the things that they've done, that's half of my job. And then I have to make sure that person watches their materials as a director, and these are people that have done features for Hulu, and I'm still fighting to get them to watch the movie. And then it's like, okay, now let's get into a general. Then the general will then hopefully spur a job opportunity. So it's just like, those things are great. I love when my clients have their own relationships and they're getting themselves on set or things. Now, if you're doing my job for me, then that's a different thing. So it's like, I think it is a good thing for you to keep doing. Now, if they're just like not doing anything, they're not getting you general meetings, because I think as a new filmmaker, that's the biggest thing. You need general meetings, and that's really the biggest part of my strategy. If you don't know anybody and you haven't had a job anywhere, we got to get you to know people. So you got to meet every studio, every network, every producer, and things like that. So if they're not doing that, then I think that's a conversation to have with them. And I'm always the type of person, I say with my clients, I'm like, if you're not feeling something's right, tell me, because we can have an opportunity to fix it. But if you wait and you don't like how I'm doing something, then okay, that's fine. We can, like, I'm never not okay with parting ways with somebody, because if you hold something in and you don't express that you haven't seen activity or this and that, then I'm like, well, you should have told me. I would have been more than happy to have a conversation and address the issues or give you insight to the work that I'm doing, you know? So it's just about communication. I think, like, talk to your reps. Like, if you have those questions, like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, can you give me an idea, like, of what you're putting me up for? And then that'll give you more insight to be like, oh, yeah, like, I would have loved to meet that person. Can we have a general? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, are you calling folks about me? So I think ask the questions to figure out if it's time to move on. But I think you networking and getting your own, like, exposure is great. Now, you shouldn't be getting jobs for yourself, though, you know, per se. But I look at a job working on a set compared to me getting you hired as a first-time director in a TV show. Those are two different things. I'm not getting you that. This is what I'm focused on getting you. So anything else, like, you can do, but, like, I would look at that as, like, those are things that you should be pushing for, you know?
Yeah, but that would include, like, being staffed in a show, like, as a story editor.
Absolutely. Like, if you're a story editor in a show, but here's the thing too with that, right? Like, you may have got that job because you knew the showrunner, but that doesn't mean then your agent and your manager isn't doing the deal, and then Josh coming in. Like, honestly, like, if I'm being 100% honest, that is how a lot of writing jobs are getting got right now. Like, honestly, I have a client that knew the showrunner for a show. They needed a very specific need. They were having one person in the room. They needed a black male that had XYZ experience. And he knew the showrunner. And I knew the showrunner too, but because he knew her, it was like, okay, that was what sealed the deal. So that may be the case, because that's honestly where we're at. People are hiring their friends. You gotta have relationships in this business. They are hiring their friends. So it's like that you may have gotten that job that way, but then that doesn't mean that your agent and your manager aren't gonna get you the best deal. So it's just kind of like, you know, you don't know. You gotta just ask.
Let me let Josh just respond, and then we're gonna.
I say, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because what you don't want is to be seen as somebody who's just hopping around firing people, because then you look like a problem child. Then we're not going to want to touch you. But I remember when I was agent manager, we have this thing called Breakdown Express, where we submit our clients to, right? And both agents and managers can submit, but more often than not, the casting director is going to send the audition to the agent, because the agents are, by law, can get jobs. So we always had clients coming back to me as the manager, like, well, you didn't submit me for this, you didn't submit me for that. And I'd be like, yes, I did. Now print out the submission report and send it to them. So just because you don't see it doesn't mean that we're not doing work. And it's because the agent gets the audition, because you don't really know the industry. You think that only your agent is doing work, right? But the flip side of that is, even though you may be the person who will get the initial insertion point at a party or whatever, you meet somebody, that doesn't mean that person doesn't come back and look you up on IMDb Pro and see that you have a team. And if if you come to me at a party, you say I'm a writer director and boom, 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 and then I look at my IMDb Pro and your IMDb Pro is bare, you don't have a team, I'm like, oh well, he just speaks for himself. I'm not going to co-sign him because nobody else has co-signed him. But if you come back to me, even though you was the person who spoke to me at the party, and then I come back and I look at my IMDb Pro and you got color creator, Fox Walchapel. Oh, this person, you got something behind them. So now I'm going to call you back because I think you have a team and that there's other people co-signing you. Right? So a person who's represented looks better than a person who's underrepresented. So don't be that person out there firing everybody because you think no one's working for you and then you just out here by your lonesome.
And it's hard to rebound. I see people do this all the time, and I've seen a lot of big actors did it right after the strike. They cleaned out their teams, and then it was